wrestling fans. Welcome to another episode of Wrestling After Show. That's right. We're coming at you from the Palatial After Show studios right here in the heart of the Mid-Atlantic territory, talking all the things we like about wrestling, some of the things we don't like, and whatever else is in between. It's Wrestling After Show, and I am Heath Haynes.
And I'm Jonny Fairplay.
Yeah, man. And we're just excited to be alive in the month of November. Of course, it's to me it's always going to be Starrcade month.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's Starrcade month, but it's also Survivor Series month. In that, there was cross promoting back in the day to offset that little thing called the granddaddy of them all. Starrcade.
Yes, indeed, and that was the origins of Survivor Series. We might get into that a little bit later on. Of course, we've got our Starrcade Sleeper segment of the week, and we called an audible earlier today. If you remember last week, we spoke. We mentioned we were going to cover the Atlanta street fight between the Midnight Express and Jimmy Valiant and Miss Atlanta Lively. I actually called the audible earlier today, and I was like, you know what? I think I've got a better idea of a match to cover.
Yeah, it was a better match.
We're going to do the Battle of the Nature Boys, and you might think I'm talking about Buddy Landel and Ric Flair, but no, from Starrcade 85. It's for the National Heavyweight Championship, the Nature Boy Buddy Landel versus Terry Taylor, which is very maybe not Nature Boy in his presentation, but he definitely borrows a lot from Ric Flair.
Oh yeah, and we see it more and more, like when he becomes heel UWF champion, with the merger between UWF and the NWA, and I have to say the Red Rooster strut has elements of the Nature Boy Fabulous Fargo strut.
Oh, wow. And that's interesting. You brought up there is a Fargo connection in that match that I'll bring up a little bit later on. But before we get to our Starrcade Sleeper of the week, of course, we're going to talk about the things we're digging currently in modern wrestling, primarily WWE. And it's dominated our conversations for weeks now, ladies and gentlemen. And this week is no exception. We got to talk about the Bloodline, major developments week after week in the ongoing Bloodline saga.
Oh, I thought you were talking the group with the Miz just joined.
We can get onto that.
We
too.
don't.
We don't.
No,
we
don't
need to get onto it. So, of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been following, where we're at right now is the OG Bloodline, if you will, and the new Bloodline have been currently looking to recruit a fifth member for each team so they can engage in the War Games match. And I'm the only one calling it a tribal combat War Games match. That has not come up in any of their discussions, but why would you not call it that?
And they literally trademarked it last year. Like that was a whole thing.
Tribal combat.
So yeah, I don't, maybe with the addition of the fifth person, it pulls away from the tribal aspect.
Maybe so.
And I mean, hey, you copyright something, you spend the money on the trademark.
Why don't you use it?
You use it. I mean, I do.
You certainly do. So both teams trying to recruit that fifth member, and this week on SmackDown, we saw that apparently the new Bloodline's recruiting efforts were successful, and they have enlisted one. I get all my Bronze confused. Bronson Reed, Big Bronson Reed, the Ozilla, who he's now being referred to as on commentary, is going to be that fifth member. And I think I'm pretty not vindicated is not the word, but I've been I was proven correct in my assumption from last week.
Yeah, that was a good guess. I don't know. I just felt that there was so much other. I like it. I like the association. I didn't like the fact that he's not part of that Samoan. He's the only person not related to the Bloodline, with the exception of Samoa Joe.
Yeah, well, but Sami Zayn,
yeah, but I like him. Like, he doesn't have to be blood related, and he doesn't have to be a part of the Bloodline. But I do like a loose association moving forward with Bronson Reed and the new Bloodline.
Well, he certainly fits the look
Yeah.
I mean, black T-shirt, gold chain, and they cut a promo on one of the after shows of all of them just walking backstage towards the camera, and I mean he fits right in. It looks like a unit, so yeah, and as of Raw from last night, from when we're taping, Bloodline interfered in what was supposedly going to be the ultimate match between Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins, thereby giving Seth Rollins, I think, the impetus to want to join his mortal enemy is not it's with him and Roman Reigns. It's not like they're mortal enemies. They haven't done awful things to each other except for Rollins stabbed him in the back.
Yeah, I was about to say they
kicked him out of the Shield. But was there ever a big program of matches between Rollins and Reigns?
Not that I remember like the allusion to it over the years, but no, like if one of these people are an asshole, it's Seth Rollins.
Indeed.
So I mean, like that's what made him the quote unquote architect.
I'll agree with you on that. Yeah. So, but he again swore last night that he doesn't want to have anything to do with his team. He fought so hard to bring Roman Reigns down to end his reign, if you will. He doesn't want to team up with him. But at this point, again, in the scenario that I laid out last week, if he wants to get his hands on Bronson Reed one more time and get revenge for the new bloodline interrupting his match last night and causing him to lose in spectacular fashion. And so I think it's a foregone conclusion now that Seth Rollins is going to be that fifth man for the OG bloodline.
Yeah, and I could envision some semblance of a Shield type entrance for that match. I think that'll be a big pop.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we don't have to get Seth Rollins and one of Becky Lynch's outfits for the match, which will be nice for Tribal Combat, of course.
And we might actually get to see more of serious Seth Rollins. That's the only Seth Rollins I care about.
Cackling
when the glasses come off. Yeah. When the glasses come off and he gets serious, it's like, okay, why is this guy? Why do you hide this guy away? But so he might not be inclined to if he's coming out, because you got to think on SmackDown this week or sometime in the near future, they're going to have some sort of in-ring segment between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, and I don't see Seth Rollins entering into that environment, doing the surf walk and all that stuff.
I think we do get that surf walk, and I'm not guaranteed. Like they could come together on SmackDown, they could come together on Raw, or it could still be ambiguous. We have no answer on who's the fifth man until Survivor Series. It's 5 versus 4, and it's just like, oh no, the good guys are in peril. They don't have a fifth guy, and then that Shield music hits.
That's certainly a scenario, and that would be a big pop. But and what we haven't gotten to yet is, of course, the closing of SmackDown. After now, they have the OG bloodline has gotten served a classic ass beating at the hands of the new bloodline and their new recruit Bronson Reed. You see Jey Uso, or maybe it was Jimmy, saying to Roman, "Make the call, Uso. Make the call." What call is he going to make? What call is he going to make?
Should I call? So here's the
okay. Well, you might be more successful than Roman Reigns because Roman Reigns tries to call the wise man, Paul Heyman, and it doesn't just go straight to voicemail. No number no longer in service, which means he's changed his number and not notified Roman Reigns.
No, here's the last time we saw the wise man. Not only did they beat up the wise man, they smashed his phone.
He had to get a new phone. Yes, that's the missing block. I forgot about that.
Yeah, but here's the gimmick with Paul Heyman that a lot of people don't know and haven't paid attention to. if you pay attention to Paul Heyman at all over the years, he's been the innovator with the phone. You know, he had the cell phone, the Wall Street, Gordon Gekko's brick cell phone, but it really wasn't. It was the cordless phone from his house.
Yeah.
You know, then he, you know, moved up to the brick, and then, you know, and but if you look along the years, especially in the last, God, 5 to 10 years, maybe at this point, Paul Heyman always has 2 phones.
Yeah.
And do you know the reason?
I think you've told me this. Yeah.
iPhone and Android.
That's right.
he has to have at all times the number one technology.
Yeah, and it's going to be one of those.
And it alternates. So he keeps 2 phones, 2 separate numbers. And I have both numbers in my phone. But I'm wondering now, I'm just like, oh no, did he, you know, all right. If you're placing money here, I'm an iPhone guy.
Okay.
You think if he disconnected one, do you think it was the Android or the iPhone?
Well, he didn't disconnect anything. His phone was smashed beyond recognition,
and you can't. Well, I mean,
and so he didn't get. You know, when he got the new phone, he didn't get it. He didn't do the deal where you get to keep your number, obviously,
or the insurance.
And he was feeling probably neglected at the hands of Roman Reigns, who was incommunicado with our tribal chief after WrestleMania last year, and all of the Solo Sikoa's sort of rise to prominence and rise to the leadership of this new bloodline. You know, they mentioned you know, a couple of times. It's like, well, have you talked to Roman? You know, people would ask Paul Heyman. He's, I haven't talked to him. And then, of course, you know, Paul Heyman meets his, you know, fate at the hands of the new bloodline, gets triple power bombed through an announce table unceremoniously. They destroy his phone. And does Roman Reigns call him? Does Roman Reigns reach out? Well, apparently not. And I guess Paul Heyman has taken that personally. And so he's blocked our tribal chief. So and they don't insert that element into the story at this point if there's not going to be a payoff. So I think this is where the possibility arises of. So why would he be calling Roman Reigns? Why would he be calling Paul Heyman? He would be calling Paul Heyman. They need a 5th guy.
Yeah.
So he's going to call Paul. Paul Heyman's not going to be the 5th guy, but Paul Heyman is going to know.
He's got Brock Lesnar.
He's got Brock Lesnar. He's got CM Punk.
Potentially Braun Breaker, who's already told Jimmy Uso no, but maybe he says yes for Paul Heyman.
I want to get back to that. So so maybe that's what so that in storyline, that's why Roman Reigns would be calling the wise man, because the wise man is going to have the answer. He's going to have that 5th guy. But now it's looking like it's going to be Seth Rollins or not. I kind of like your scenario so maybe Seth Rollins doesn't commit and we get all the way to Survivor Series without there being a named 5th member of that team. And then when that last, bell buzzer rings or whatever, and it's time for that 5th member to come in, what if that's when Heyman shows up with the cavalry, Brock Lesnar or CM Punk?
I think if we don't have the 5th,
Seth leaves them hanging.
Well, I think if we don't have the 5th member allotted, I think there's just reckless speculation for who the 5th member is. Sure. And I feel like it's one of those deals where our imagination is probably better than the payoff. Mm-hmm. And maybe not. I mean, because there's a reason Paul Heyman was called. But let's just say we still know Paul Heyman, so our reckless speculation leads us to believe, okay, it's obviously CM Punk or Brock Lesnar. It has to be. That's why the phone call, magically. So, but I think it's as simple as it's Seth Rollins and you get the Shield music and they're like, we know they're going to pop for the Shield music. Mm-hmm. If it's, stupid, burn it down. Everyone's like, they could have told us this on Raw.
Yeah. They did the Shield music entrance at WrestleMania for Seth Rollins and he came out in the Shield gear, right?
Yeah.
The other thing I'm remembering, last year for Survivor Series, for War Games, Randy was named before Like he hadn't come back, but everybody knew he was coming back.
Yeah.
Like it was made official, so it wasn't a mystery.
Yeah.
But they still did a deal where like he wasn't there on time, right? And
Yeah, well, I'm willing to bet he was there on time.
Possibly. I don't know that they would do the sort of mystery or not. Yeah, the questions around the fifth member 2 years in a row, but maybe they would. But I want to ask you something. So I'm hearing like, where is this? Because I've heard talk of this connection between Paul Heyman and Braun Breaker. Now, other than just like fantasy booking, is that based in any sort of actual thing that either one of them has said?
Yes.
Okay.
I think there's been a couple backstage walk past deals.
Okay.
And then Paul has said in interviews that's the future.
Okay.
So he's like, of all the guys, that's the guy.
Because I've heard that mentioned in a couple of wrestling commentary videos lately, and I was like, yeah, it makes sense, but where are people getting that?
Yeah.
And I was just
we've had two little backstage walk past things, very brief.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, oh.
So that's where we're at with the Bloodline. And again, it's easily the most compelling story on WWE programming for me, for sure. But of course, it's not. Go ahead.
Well, getting back to the finish of the Bronson Reed Seth Rollins match
from last night.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had at the PLE Crown Jewel, we had Seth get the win, and I think a lot of people felt like that was just like, why not give the rub to Bronson Reed? He didn't need
That's
it.
What I said,
yeah. And I think a lot of people were just like, well, they're probably going to give him the win on free TV. More people see it. I'm almost okay with 2 Bronson Reed wins versus a one win for Seth, with less people watching, and 1 win for Bronson with more people watching. Don't you think it? I don't like the even Stevenness of it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it harkens back to the good old days of 50-50 booking, which like is still kind of a thing a little bit. But yeah, Bronson Reed. So being one of those people that had the gripe about him not winning a crown jewel, it's like, well, what was the point of all this? But I mean, he has now been inserted into the storyline, so win or no win, he's in that mix, he's in that conversation, and so yeah, he's gotten the rub.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't like Seth Rollins, so like I want to see him. I want to see somebody mop the floor with him at all times. So like, yeah, as many Bronson Reed wins as they want to do, I'm down.
So, all right, well, we'll save our reckless speculation for the finish of the War Games for next week.
Well, we're gonna
but I do have a quick T-shirt talk. So you would never buy a Seth Rollins T-shirt?
No, sir.
Okay, but you are rocking a
Jimmy Boogie Woogie Man Valiant T-shirt right here.
There you go.
That is that I bought from the no, actually I didn't buy this from the man himself. This was a Pro Wrestling Tees product.
I was about to say that the quality seems a little higher than what Jimmy sells. no, just on Jimmy. He has more of the Haynes BPT, little thicker printing, ink.
Let me ask you: have you ever made the pilgrimage up to Shawsville, Virginia, and the Boogie Woogie headquarters?
I've been invited many times.
Yeah,
I have not made it for church and/or wrestling camp.
Me neither. I tell you what, though, that out of and now I'm kind of bummed out that we're not going to be talking about Jimmy Valiant later on today, because he really is a case study in booking and getting over in the territory days, and for a long time, the only interaction that I ever had with a professional wrestler, I met Jimmy Valiant, of course. I'm sure you were there too at the signing at Mulholland's on South Main. About 5 minutes away from Palatial After Show Studios right here.
Would you say a 3-hour wait
Every bit,
maybe more.
every bit of it, and he was super nice. But what I really appreciate about Jimmy Valiant is years later, in 2015 or 2016, I was at the Legends Fest in Charlotte, and that the Legends Fest where infamously well-known, well-regarded wrestling nice guy Bobby Eaton was kind of a dick to me, which I think says more about me than it does Bobby Eaton. But Jimmy Valiant could not have been sweeter, could not have been nicer, and I was like, yeah, Boogie. I met you like when I was like 11 years old at the grand opening of the Ma Holland's convenience store in Danville, Virginia, on South Main Street, and he doesn't remember that.
Yeah, but he pretends like he does. He's pretended to me too.
He pretended he did. He was like, "Oh yeah, I remember that.
I'm the big one, Daddy."
He was like, "It was real hot that day," and I was like, "It was really hot." Yeah. So.
No, I've asked him about it too. He's like, "Oh yeah, that was a good one."
Yeah.
I was like, oh, "Okay."
I love it.
So, I remember all my appearances too.
So what else is going on in WWE that we need to address today?
Oh well, we have the women's U.S. tournament match.
We have a pretty big development, and just in the fact that there is now a mid-card championship for the women's division, at least on one of the programs, and it's the Women's United States Championship, and they did the as WWE often does when they're bringing in a new championship for the women, they take the championship for the men and they just put it on a white strap, and there you go.
There you have it.
And so yeah, they're having a tournament, and it's triple threat matches.
Yes,
right?
it's a series of 4 triple threat matches. We've only had one thus far. So our first round was this past Friday night. It was Bayley versus Candice LeRae versus B-Fab. And a lot of people looking for anyone other than Bayley to win this for a multitude of reasons. Bayley's character is beyond cold and flat right now.
Yep.
And I think, this is a secondary championship. I don't need Bayley to have. I mean, maybe Bayley out of the gate just to give some prestige, because Bayley is a higher tier.
I see what you're saying.
Women's performer, but I do not like the idea of Bayley with this championship. And if she is, just not for long.
So as your inaugural, that's an interesting way to look at it, and booking philosophy. And championship. So here you have this brand new championship. Do you use it to elevate a lower card talent, or do you put it on a higher card talent to legitimize a brand new title? And I think in this case, the second of those options would be the way to go, to actually establish the title. Because so think about, like, in recent memory when they you can't even say reintroduced, but when they introduced the new World's Heavyweight Championship, and they gave it to Seth Rollins. Still, Seth Rollins, well, they didn't give it to him. I mean, he won in a tournament, but I mean,
he legitimately won. Those are shoot fights
for a long time. That championship was referred to in circles as the Seth Rollins Consolation Championship.
Yeah.
So if you do put it on, say, a Bayley and on SmackDown, does it thereby become the Bayley Consolation Championship? So the theory of putting it on an established talent and then thereby justifying, the existence of the title, does that really work, I guess, is my question.
Well, let's look at the creation of AEW. We had the championship match to crown the first AEW World's Heavyweight Champion, and it came down Chris Jericho,
and Adam Page,
and Hangman Adam Page, and I was a huge proponent in putting it on Jericho, only because there's so many people that when AEW came out, they were just like, "What's this? This ain't WWE." Who are these people and all that? And so many people came out of the woodwork, and they're just like, Fairplay, are you watching AEW? I'm just like, yeah, I watch all wrestling, and they're like, man, Chris Jericho's back, brother.
Mhm.
No, it's
Yeah,
just like, right.
yeah.
And it like, at that time, we're talking 5, almost 6 years ago or whatever. I get it. Like,
Yeah.
for those people, that's the hook they needed. And I feel that did give the legitimacy to it versus I could imagine a lot of people going, man, who's this Hangman Adam Page guy?
Right.
I don't know him.
Yeah.
And
If
it's
he
just
would've
like,
got
well,
it.
no, he's the new. Don't care.
Yeah.
So I think they could have gone Kenny Omega out of the gate, and I would have been okay with that.
Well, Tony Khan famously, it's well known that he had all his first 5 champions all picked out and like their title reigns and how long they were going to last and and all that stuff. And so eventually, Heyman Adam Page did get his turn. I see what you're saying there. A little bit of a different situation because you have fledgling brand new promotion and top title, like the top title. For this is this is a mid-card title.
Sure.
I think but I agree. Put it maybe on a more established star to establish the title itself, and then get it on whoever is going to be sort of be the standard bearer for that level of the division. But there are some if I'm remembering correctly from looking at the brackets, there are some interesting potential matchups.
Sure,
they're going to arise.
Yeah, here's our other 3 matchups. We have Bianca Belair versus Chelsea Green versus Blair Davenport. Now, I think everyone on the planet other than Blair Davenport and Bianca Belair would like Chelsea Green to win that.
Indeed.
Okay.
Indeed.
Okay, then next we have Jade Cargill versus Meechin versus Piper Niven.
Okay.
Once again, there's a lot of people that like Piper Niven to make it through that round. And then Naomi versus Tiffany Stratton versus Elektra Lopez. I get Tiffany with the Money in the Bank doesn't need this, so I'm guessing Naomi out of that bracket.
Well, and you can also say the same thing for Bianca and Jade. They have the tag belt, so they don't really need it either. But this is definitely an opportunity to get that initial face off between Bianca and Jade, and maybe start the.
That wouldn't be until the finals, and I don't like those 2 in the finals.
Right. Oh, that would be an option till the finals. Yeah.
I hate that as a final match, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I could kind of see him doing it. Or maybe just the fact that there's the possibility that they could be facing each other will be enough of
the beginning tension block.
Yeah, enough tension to add some to get their issues stirred up.
Well, according to commentary, there is already tension that we have not seen in any degree.
According to commentary and according to backstage sources, I've heard that apparently they do not have a very great working relationship, which
but not shown on television in any way.
Yeah, not shown on TV in any way. Just smiling and skipping and laughing,
high five,
and
selfies,
and yeah. It's interesting. We're talking about Jade and Bianca, and a lot of things bother me about Jade Cargill, and I care not to get into them because I just sound like old guy yelling at clouds. So
I love her.
Great. But one of the things that has always annoyed me about her presentation in WWE, and I couldn't figure out why it bothered me so much, but in her entrance music, and it's before the music actually starts, you hear the lightning bolts and stuff, which should we give them a call? Because they might have.
Oh, copyright infringement. I thought we were going to get a call from Glacier people. Blood runs cold.
That's right. So with Jade Cargill's entrance, there's the the storm sound effects, and she says a storm. is coming. And it's that fake laugh that just, oh man,
That's all it takes.
it ruins it for me. And why does that bother me so much? And I was listening to our guy Wade Keller last night on his on the PW Torch wrap up, and he was talking to about Liv Morgan. Apparently, Liv Morgan has like a little fake laugh thing in her presentation as well, and he mentioned that, and I was like, that's what it is. It's the fakiness of it, and that ultimately is what gets me about all of Jade Cargill's presentation. It's like, how do both of these situations exist with her? Like, I look at her and she should be the most believable figure in professional wrestling, just to look at her. But there's something about the way she carries herself or whatever that just it doesn't ring authentic. It doesn't ring true to me. And it's like, is this who you are? Is this who you want to be? Is this who you're aspiring to be? I don't know, but there's something about her that doesn't ring true. And I think that fake laugh in her intro is emblematic of that, and it's just like part of my bigger problem with her.
It's a disconnect, and it's funny that you mentioned that fake. So you have a problem with Jade Cargill, and you have a problem with Liv Morgan. Seth Rollins, fake laugh.
Oh yeah, I hate him too. Yeah, so there it is.
The cackle.
That's why you'll never see me doing a fake laugh. I will sit here and just like look stone faced as he like lobs these one-liners at me, and it's like, I'm not gonna fake laugh.
I'm killing it.
I'm not gonna fake laugh at that. But you will get a hearty guffaw out of me if I'm legitimately tickled.
It's a lot of work.
So yes, but I think hearty guffaw versus one hearty guffaw versus 1,000 fake laughs.
Sure.
A hearty guffaw carries more weight. So this women's division, this United States Championship, big picture, I think it's great. It gives everybody something else to fight for. But then do you run if they introduce? It seems like they kind of have to do a mid-card title for Raw.
Yeah.
As well, are we getting into, speaking of AEW, are we getting into AEW territory of like, wow, everybody's got a belt? There's so many titles.
No, I'm okay with it in that if they do the women's Intercontinental Championship on Monday Night Raw, I'll allow it if we have a unification of the two World Championship belts.
Oh.
And that's
there we go.
And that's a touring champion.
2 titles, take away 1 title.
Yeah.
I'm not. I hadn't thought about that. I'm not mad at that at all.
Yeah. Because and we could see the same thing with the men's World Championship. Netflix wants Roman Reigns. Netflix wants Cody Rhodes. What, USA doesn't want Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes? I'm sure they do too.
Yeah.
This solves your problem.
Yeah. And then whoever has that title floats.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, they're already doing it with the women's tag championships.
Exactly.
And I always thought that was a great idea, because you have, you've got your women's tag team championships being defended on NXT,
So.
and you got to think, whoever is challenging for those titles, they're getting looked at. And that's a great idea. And
I love a few, like, say Becky Lynch or whoever, I don't care. Nia Jax, she's the world champion, and she has a feud with Bayley or whatever. Becky and Liv, they could be feuding on the other brand for the number 1 contender.
Mm-hmm.
And then once that feud's done, boom, we head over here, and then we have them feuding for the number 1 contender here. Also, we have a U.S. championship going, so it keeps the world. I mean, because, with the 2 world championships, you're just looking at the men's division, we had Cody Rhodes wins the championship, and, this is coming off a 3-year run by Roman Reigns. It's like, who's first up? AJ Styles. It's like, ooh.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would give more of an opportunity because it seems like a lot of times, and this is actually a bone to pick with WWE storytelling. This whole like, we got to figure out who the number 1 contender is. It's like, no, don't you already like? Isn't that like what all like? Isn't that a running thing? It's like, no, all of a sudden it's like, we don't have a number one contender. We got to have a tournament. We got to, it's like, and if you had one championship that reigned over both shows, but then, say your U.S. and your Intercontinental titles were you had people vying for those, historically in NWA, that U.S. champion, that's your number one contender, and that was just acknowledged. It's like that's the number one contender. So yeah, I dig that idea. And also it would lend credence to if they eliminated the World Heavyweight Championship or clearly made it known that is just like the top championship for that show exclusive. Well, I guess it kind of is, but I just another bone to pick. They keep referring to Cody's championship as undisputed. And it's like, but it's not.
There's another one right
but it's
here.
not that this guy has one.
And I love your argument for the, it's just like, we got to fight a number one contender. It's just like, well, throw Dominic Mysterio in there. He hasn't won a match in 4 years. He's in the top 4, right?
So you bring up an interesting point in reference to the move to Netflix. So I want to talk about that, and we'll be talking about the move to Netflix more and more as it approaches in the beginning of January. But do you see? I see the possibility of there's the first Raw on Netflix, and obviously they load it up.
Yeah. Travis Scott, hardcore champion.
They load it up with everybody from both shows, and then maybe boom, draft next week. So maybe a draft in January.
I don't think so. They've addressed that they're happy with with where the pieces that they have right now for now. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I believe there's a date in mind, but it's not because usually the draft is in the fall, which makes kind of no sense.
Well, no, I think this past year it was like right after WrestleMania.
Was it right after
it?
Mania? Yeah. Okay, well that makes a little.
That makes sense. I mean, I could see him doing it, or
because it has been the fall because we've had drafts right before the brand supremacy stupid Survivor Series. And it's just like, this person who just got drafted to Raw 2 weeks ago is fighting for Raw. And it's just like, oh my God, this is so stupid.
It used to be, but remember now they moved it to be more closely aligned time-wise with the NFL draft.
Okay.
So that's kind of when it is now.
Yeah.
It's draft season. Maybe an end to the brand. Maybe the Netflix era heralds the end of the brand split.
I don't like that. I like the brand split.
I kind of do too.
Yeah. So I'm okay with it. Are you okay with the hardcore championship being defended on Monday Night Raw? Did you see that?
I saw where so Travis Scott, I guess his new single or whatever is gonna be the theme song for Raw once it moves to Netflix. But yeah, so Triple H presented him with some sort of gimmick belt. I mean, I just looked at it as like they give celebrities belts all the time. So
so the gimmick with Travis Scott is Travis Scott has his own Nikes and his own clothing line made by Nike, and it's called the Cactus Jack Collection.
Huh.
His shoes say Cactus Jack.
How does how does that fucking
He
work?
loves Cactus Jack. It's his favorite wrestler.
But does Mick Foley get a fucking check out of that?
I don't think so.
Oh, dude, that's fucked.
But Mick Foley loves it too.
Okay.
So everyone's in cahoots. So, but yeah, Travis Scott literally has Nikes that say Cactus Jack.
So he's a wrestling fan.
He loves wrestling. So if you notice the belt that was presented to him yesterday, it is one of the new Cody Rhodes style belts, duct taped together like the old hardcore championship Winged Eagle.
Yeah.
So they did it like that, and I'm sure because there's people that are nerds like us. Is just like if they made a hardcore championship, you're like, no, that's not the hardcore. The hardcore championship needs to be an old belt put together with tape because So they did.
That's awesome.
So he was that part's on, but presenting it to Travis Scott, and he is champion. He will be defending it at the first Netflix. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you not catch that part?
No, I didn't catch that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I was racing to turn it, but it just kept going. I'm like, oh okay.
It worked out with Bad Bunny. So So
Travis Scott's a big deal.
So who's to say? So. Also, with the move to Netflix, we as we're recording this, of course, Friday night we saw the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight broadcast live on Netflix, which apparently experienced a lot of technical difficulties,
Yes, sir.
a lot of buffering issues, which I mean that could be a pretty serious issue once Raw is trying to broadcast live every week.
They've had the same problem. Like, they don't run much live programming. They had the same problem with the Love Is Blind reunion.
Is that right?
Yeah, and are you trying to tell me that the Love Is Blind reunion has more viewers than Monday Night Raw will? No.
Yeah, you could. I mean, I haven't seen any explanation as to why there were issues with streaming, but one would think it's because of the size of the audience. Yeah.
And that was a special thing.
It was huge, yeah.
But the first Raw is going to be a special thing.
Indeed.
So,
indeed.
And there will be some momentum coming out of that first Raw.
Yeah. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. And apparently WWE has expressed their concerns to Netflix over those streaming issues. So somebody's on that.
Did you watch the Jake Paul?
I didn't. I thought it was Saturday, but I guess UFC was Saturday, so they didn't want to do it on Saturday. I did not watch it. Have not heard great things though, and I heard it was like not a work, but I heard that there were some things in the contract where like it was like, all right, Tyson, if you come out and knock him out in the first round, you're not gonna make as much money. Like you kind of got to make it last.
I don't know about that. I feel like that's a little more rumor and innuendo than anything else. I will say this. I bet on Jake Paul.
What I see, I don't even like who. I've heard commentary about it, but I haven't heard anybody come out and say like who won or what the result.
Jake Paul won.
Okay.
So my feeling going into it, I was just like, okay, this could be a work.
I'm sorry, by a knockout, by a decision.
Decision.
Okay,
decision.
So and what was it? 8 rounds?
Yes,
it was 8 rounds, and then Jake Paul
won 8 2-minute rounds.
Okay, so that's not traditional.
No.
So regular rounds are 3, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Because Mike Tyson's 58 years old, and he's winded. He can do 2, and then goes
so 8 2-minute rounds, and Paul wins by decision. Go ahead.
All right, so I figure it would be worked a few different ways or options, but one is Jake wins this one. There's a reason for a rematch. Mike wins that one, and then there's a reason for a third. Everyone keeps getting paid. And, or vice versa. It doesn't matter who wins first. So everyone's like, who do I bet on? I'm like, well, if that's the way they work it, I don't know because it doesn't matter. Because they just need 3. And it doesn't matter who wins the first, who wins the second. As long as there's a reason to get to the second one. And then you just do the opposite finish for the second. And you have the third. You can make it real, or you can work that one too. Or another way to work it is this whole thing was a publicity vehicle for Jake Paul pay-per-views. Or fights in general, or just Jake Paul branding and marketing. That was what this was all about. So Jake Paul wins.
Yeah.
So if that's what this is about, Jake Paul made $40 million, Mike Tyson made $20 million. Like that was just locked in, no matter what happened. And I think once they got a little closer to it, they started. Mike's 58 years old. Mike looked 58 years old.
Is that right?
His the first 2 rounds looked a lot better than the last 6. But they weren't great, and we the commentators were there was Rosie Perez for some reason.
I heard she was a nightmare.
She added nothing.
Yeah.
Roy Jones Jr. just complained the entire time about Tyson's he's got nothing, because he's all butthurt about their last fight, and so he sucked. And then who's Mauro Ranallo?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I love his enthusiasm.
Yeah.
So, but don't pick on him. He hates it.
He does not like.
He does not like being picked on. Ask JBL. So JBL seems like a nice guy, except to to anyone he's mean to, which is must be.
It's Jonny Fairplay, reality TV icon, Survivor Hall of Famer, and I'm talking today about Work Money. Work Money is a non-profit organization that focuses on lowering costs and raising incomes for all Americans to make American life more affordable. And American families more economically secure. They provide products, services, perks, benefits, tips, and tools to help members improve their financial lives. It's time to level up and make more money in this economy. We're talking getting rich. Now, this sweepstakes is giving away $50,000. You can use this to pay your rent, your mortgage. Imagine what you can do with all the money that you'll save. Now, this is put on by Work Money, and this site has all these sick benefits, and it's free. Go sign up right now and get more rich. Now, listen, you can change your life. Now, what would you do if you didn't have to pay your rent or mortgage for a year? Listen. Sign up right now for free. Link is available right here in the show notes. Check them out. Personally, I'd get more pinball machines. I'm Jonny Fairplay. I wouldn't lie about that. It's work money. More money.
Well, of course, back in the day, ladies and gentlemen, an event of the level of Paul and Tyson would have been on a pay-per-view. Pay-per-views are not a thing anymore. But they didn't always. This is a strange transition. Back in the day, before pay-per-views, people used to watch things on closed circuit TV, and that's the type of event that Starrcade originated as. It was a closed circuit TV event before the days of pay-per-views. And right now, we're going to move on over and talk about this. And this is going to be our final in the series of Starrcade Sleepers, because next week we're going to transition to a different classic, a classic War Games match, because we will be in War Game season. But we're going back to Starrcade, back to the granddaddy of them all, and we're talking about Starrcade 85 today, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, Starrcade Sleeper, a match that you may not have heard too much about from Starrcade, but it's an actual a dynamite match. But first off, with Starrcade, the big matches for 85 was the rematch of Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair for the World Heavyweight Championship, which was notable for a couple of reasons. Probably like the most textbook example of the Dusty finish ever. And you also get to see the interference of this is pre Four Horsemen, but the Anderson brothers, cousins, uncle, like
what were they that
let's
week?
just say the Andersons, the influence of the Andersons and the alliance of the Andersons and Ric Flair is key in that match. And so it's the dawning of the Four Horsemen, which will of course dominate all the Jim Crockett storylines for all of 1986. But the match that, and of course, Starrcade 85 was notable for the I Quit match between Tully Blanchard and Magnum TA, which has been talked about ad nauseum. But what we are going to talk about is for the National Heavyweight Championship, which was one of the titles from the Georgia territory, which had recently been acquired by Jim Crockett Promotions. The National Heavyweight Championship was their top singles title. Their singles champion is Terry Taylor. No Red Rooster, no gimmickless Terry Taylor, if you will. Terry Taylor versus a very gimmicked up Nature Boy, Buddy Landell,
the real Nature Boy.
The real Nature Boy. And first off, I just want to ask you, because I remember as a kid, of course, when this was happening, looking at Buddy Landell and being like, what? Okay, I don't like Ric Flair, but if I did, why would I like you too? You're just this, bargain basement impersonator of the Nature Boy. Buddy Landell, who cares about you? That's, of course, as a kid. Now, I look at Buddy Landell, I'm like, he's electricity personified in that ring. I love this guy. Your thoughts as a kid, and then of course today on Buddy Landell.
I mean, as a kid, he was low budget Ric Flair.
But you liked heels as a kid, so
yeah. I liked him. I liked him around this time because he has J.J. Dillon, So I always liked managers, even though, JJ got immensely better. This is the lower incarnations. But I liked him calling out Ric Flair and saying, I'm the real, and you look at the two and you're just like, this guy's not, but I like the bravado. I'm a huge bravado, for those of you that don't know, and a lot of people think they know what the word means. Bravado means false confidence. And it like, Buddy Landell did not think he was better than Ric Flair. Buddy Landell knew he was not better than Ric Flair. But he'd say he was.
Yeah.
So and hope somehow that would manifest it into being fact.
Yeah. He to watch, he's like a cat in the ring. I mean, it's like to look at him, the physique is not really there, but the physique wasn't, I mean, back in those days, it's like physique stood out. And this is, and eventually, like, everybody ended up, being like, in pretty good shape. But Buddy Landell, like, he's a big guy, but he's not particularly cut or anything. But he's in shape, and the way he moves in the ring, I mean, it's explosive. And just, I mean, he a hell of a working punch. In this match in particular, there were a couple of side headlock takedowns that looked devastating.
Right? And who talks about side headlock takedowns,
The one-arm snapmare, like little, like, stuff like that is, just like, not this snapmare, but like the one-arm snapmare takes the guy over. And then his selling, I mean, he takes, a hellacious backdrop in this match, which looks great. So anyway, I don't even know if we need to do the blow by blow. There's so much back and forth in this match. Neither competitor ever really gets a clear advantage. A lot of back and forth, and you were mentioning the Fargo strut earlier. Interestingly enough, the referee for this particular match is Sonny Fargo. Which, growing up in this territory, you had your mainstay. Tommy Young was your mainstay referee, and Gene Ligon. You'd see referee Gene Ligon every once in a while, but every once in a while you would see this referee who would show up in like kind of his own gimmick, like
it was good. If a referee were going to be recruited to the Wyatt family, this guy would be.
And that's interesting you say that, because Sonny Fargo would just show up in like a referee's outfit with the National Wrestling Alliance referee, insignia on there. So he was official, he was emblazoned, but no stripes, no black trousers, no, just got yellow jumpsuit. Yellow on yellow, or sometimes it would be blue on blue, but just red on red.
Who's to say?
So it's so in my mind, it was always like, who is this colorful character that's Sonny Fargo? That's a referee. Well, come to find out, he was a huge star in Memphis. As the crazy distant brother of Jackie Fargo, known as Roughhouse Fargo. And he had a whole different deal in Memphis. He was so fucking wild. They could only bring him in like once a year, like around Christmas. It's like bringing Roughhouse. And he would come in and he was legit out of his fucking mind, like gnawing on shit, and they would have these crazy, violent, bloody, Memphis style matches. But like, as a fan in the Mid-Atlantic area, we never saw any of that stuff. It was never in any of the magazines because like they didn't want to like blow it, because he's got this gig in Carolina as like a mild-mannered, like if maybe a little exotically dressed referee, but they didn't want to blow his cover. But so I always love to look for Sonny Fargo matches nowadays. But this is a tremendous match, and culminating in outside interference with the precursor to J.J. Dillon using the loafer as a foreign object. In this, he actually used a cowboy boot,
which makes a little more sense than the penny loafer.
Well, he was I mean, offensively and also for his character at the time, because he was a little, he was just coming off of a stint managing the Long Riders, which imploded, and actually had a two matches before this on Starrcade. JJ comes out, head busted open, bandaged up,
Spirit of 76,
looking rough and rugged. From the encounter he just had with Ron Bass and the business end of a cowbell and the bull rope match. But he comes out, his cowboy boot ends up getting involved, cracks Terry Taylor with the cowboy boot, ref bump, another ref bump, manager bump, and then Terry Taylor gets Buddy Landel up for his big move, the superplex, and then J.J. Dillon, not content to only have interjected with his footwear, trips up Terry Taylor and his superplex attempt, and Buddy Landel falls on him. Fargo counts the pin, and 1, 2, 3, new national heavyweight champion, the Nature Boy Buddy Landel.
Budrow
Budrow
wins a big one at Starrcade, the granddaddy of them all.
So you would think a guy, coming after a win on Starrcade, the granddaddy of them all, well, this guy's just got nothing but upside.
Sky's the limit.
Not so fast.
Oh.
Shortly after this, well, the face of both of these guys, Terry Taylor ends up going to Mid-South, which eventually becomes UWF, and Fairplay mentioned earlier, rises through the ranks, becomes UWF television champion, turns heel, and then we see him in this area again at Starrcade 87, where this is, of course, after Crockett bought UWF. And there's a unification match of the UWF TV Championship and the NWA World's Television Championship. Nikita Koloff versus Terry Taylor at Starrcade 87. And then, of course, Terry Taylor goes up to WWF, where I don't care what anybody says.
He reaches into the box of gimmick.
The box of gimmicks had to be a real thing.
Yes.
And he gets maybe the worst gimmick of all time.
If only he had gone, Kurt Hennig went first and grabbed Mr. Perfect out of there. And Terry Taylor goes, oh, well, this has got to be just as good as Mr. Perfect.
Yeah.
Because, truth be told, Terry Taylor could have easily been Mr. Perfect.
Sure. I think so, too.
Nailed the character.
I think so, too.
Possibly better than Kurt Hennig.
Maybe. Who knows?
Who's to say?
Somewhere in the multiverse.
But he reaches in the old box of gimmicks and pulls out the Red Rooster. Or as a girl I used to date, you say, "Fuck-a-doo."
You did say that. Not to me, though.
Yeah.
Red Rooster, one of the worst gimmicks of all time. Buddy Landel, on the other hand, pretty soon after this, no shows of TV taping for World Championship Wrestling in Atlanta. Which if you don't know, they would tape those Saturday morning, early o'clock.
It was a tough gig for no-show Budrow.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the specific plans were, but reportedly, Dusty had some, as the story goes, Dusty had some big plans for old Budrow. I mean, he got the win at Starrcade. He's the national heavyweight champion. No shows the TV taping, and after multiple efforts to revive him, retrieve him, doesn't show up. So the week after that, we are greeted on our Saturday morning, and I remember a buddy of mine called me because they would tape on Saturday morning, but they would also it's like they would tape it and then immediately broadcast part of it.
Yeah.
I want to say, or I guess this is probably because there was an 8 a.m. broadcast and it was just called Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
From Georgia, or just Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
And I guess they would tape that the week before. So one week you have new national champion Buddy Landel. We're waiting to hear from him, and then the next week, 8 a.m. in the morning on TBS, and my buddy called me after the show was over. He's like, Dusty Rhodes beat Buddy Landel for the national championship. I was like, wait, what? He was like, Yeah, it was like on TV. He's like, no, it was in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Oh yeah, let's get all that. Oh man, what was the attendance on that?
Who knows?
Yeah.
So it was a very infamous Phantom title change where Dusty Rhodes, the Booker, just took the belt off of Buddy Landel and put it on himself, and then proceeded to lose it to Tully Blanchard later on down the road. Because that's the only reason that Dusty Rhodes ever held any championship was just, well, except for the World Heavyweight Championship, which is just to lose it to Tully Blanchard.
Yeah, I'm more than okay with that.
More than okay with that.
Yeah.
Well, that was the Starrcade Sleeper. We hope you enjoyed our little romp through the glory days, if you will, of Jim Crockett Promotions and the granddaddy of them all, Starrcade. After this, Starrcade '86 would also take place in Atlanta and Greensboro, and then famously Starrcade '87 is where they moved Starrcade out of the Southeast, and they did it in Chicago. And for many, that's considered that move.
Yeah,
and some of the booking on Starrcade was sort of like. Okay.
The balloon contracts.
The end of the glory days of Jim Crockett Promotions. Well, that's a huge conversation to be had about like all the many factors that led to the downfall and eventual sale of Jim Crockett Promotions to TBS. But a conversation for another day. But of course, Crockett Promotions does get bought by Ted Turner. He rebrands the whole thing as World Championship Wrestling, but they definitely retain some of the elements, title lineage, definitely the roster of Jim Crockett Promotions. They retain Dusty Rhodes as Booker. Well, no, they don't retain him immediately. He ends up coming back as Booker later on. He might be Booker by the time of this match that we're going to talk about next week. And they definitely retained a lot of the Dusty Rhodes concepts, one of which was War Games, also known as War Games: The Match Beyond.
Yes.
And
I love it when they say The Match Beyond, because it was The Match Beyond. To have two rings together with the steel cage over top and the roof, I just loved it all.
Well, in the original presentation of War Games, War Games was a different thing. War Games was everything leading up to The Match Beyond.
Yeah.
War Games was two guys enter, and then it's 2-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-2, all of that stuff. That was War Games.
Yeah.
And once it was 5-on-5, the battle was joined. Now it's the Match Beyond.
Yeah.
That factor is lost to history at this point.
Yeah, no, it's
the Match Beyond.
We're
We're gonna look at a classic War Games from the WCW era. And this was a pick of yours, and I'm really glad you brought this up because I've always heard about this match, and I don't think I've ever watched it. So tell us the
it's been forever for me. I just vaguely remember it being like the good one.
Yeah. So it's the Dangerous Alliance versus the Sting Squadron.
Yes, the Sting Squadron. And so there's a lot of notables here, but I thought the big thing with Paul Heyman being that missing phone call here. Going into this year's, 30 years later. Layers upon layers upon layers. I love it. And the Dangerous Alliance, I mean, you had some of the best, Stunning Steve Austin, who would later become Stone Cold, Ravishing Rick Rude, Beautiful Bobby, Larry Zbyszko, Arn Anderson, Medusa. So Sting Squadron had a bunch of good guys.
Yeah. We're going to find out all about it next week. As we're going to do a full Survivor Series preview and along with a recap of course of a not so Crockett classic, but definitely in that same lineage next week here on Wrestling After Show. We've had a hoot today, ladies and gentlemen, and we hope you have had a good time as well. Remember to do all the YouTube things, do all the social media things, like this video. Leave a comment below. What's your favorite Starrcade Sleeper match of all time? And what's your favorite War Games match of all time? Those would be great ideas if you wanted to leave a comment.
Those are wonderful. I would read those.
I would read them too. And we do read them if we ever get one. We promise we're looking forward to that day where we get to read a comment. Maybe today will be that day. And of course, tell them about our the Patreon program that we have going on.
Sure. Go to realitypatron.com. That's reality, patron.com. If you don't like commercials, and who does, go there. Any price level. I think they start $5 and up. Get yourself a commercial-free podcast. And the best way, of course, is to support the podcast.
Indeed. And the whole family of After Show podcasts here on the Reality After Show YouTube channel. And we're also on all your audio-only podcast platforms as well. But with all that said and done, I think it's all said and done for this week here on Wrestling After Show. For my broadcast colleague, Jonny Fairplay, I'm Heath Haynes, and we'll see you at the matches.